Hey everyone, thanks for joining and welcome to another watercolour demonstration with myself, Stephen Cronin. Today it's like a nice little sort of summery country type scene with some distant buildings in the right far way back. So I'm just going to start off with a bit of raw sienna. I'm just going to take that right the way down to the bottom. Not uniform, just hit and miss, leaving gaps here and there. I'm going to clean the brush and then take a bit of ultramarine and I'm going to come in from the other side and I'm just sort of, again, it's like hit and miss, leaving bits, and I'm not painting everything, and then a lot of this is just left untouched. So then what I'm going to do is take a bit of tissue or kitchen roll like this is and just check out a few clouds at the bottom, and this will also help the buildings on the horizon show up better. That'll also stop the paint from dripping down the paper. Stick that up a bit. Don't want it all level, want it up and down, nice and random. Right then, I'm going to take a flat brush like this. Paper's already damp, so I don't want too much water on the brush. I'm just going to use the same sky colours, just raw sienna, ultramarine. I don't know if that's too dry. And then I'm just going to go something like this. Start off with like a little church, and then all sorts of things in the distance. Let's put a big flat in there as well, something like that. Not seeing too much over on that side, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. A bit more raw sienna, ultramarine, and then it's going to get a little bit smaller on that side. So that's just a very simple horizon line with buildings and things like that. You can always flatten it off, something like that. Clean the brush again, and then I'm going to go back into raw sienna. Let's just brush that in, something like that. And a bit of lemon yellow, Payne's grey, lemon yellow, ultramarine, and then just I'm just going to lighten that off a little bit, I think. So I've got a bit of like a fence posts and things to put in, so I want them to be fairly light. So again, I'm just going to take out a bit of that paint with this tissue, and I'm just going to make sure that is flat against the board, so I've got a nice flat surface to work with. So that's basically the backdrop. Let's just soften that up a little bit more. Not any real hard edges on those clouds, so it's not quite dried yet in the distance, so I can still take off a little bit of paint. Now that's nice and soft in the background, so that's sort of nice little backdrop. So let's give that a quick dry. And again, I'm going to stick with this brush. This time I'm going to go a bit of light red, burnt umber. Let's see how this turns out. Light red, burnt umber, a little bit of ultramarine in there as well. Right then, now I'm going for, and that's not quite dry, you can see it's softening. It's softening off, it's not hard edge, but I ain't going to worry about that too much. But now this, just pushing in some random posts and things, just something here in the foreground. Pop another one in there. Now the rest of it, I'm starting to get a lot darker now. So I've got a nice soft, should pop something like that. The Payne's grain there as well. Now I'm getting a little bit darker. And let's go back behind there. I'm switching to the rigger brush now. So now I want some nice random rigger work. Now this is going to be a little tree up here, so I'm putting these in first. And then I'll dry brush some foliage on there in a bit. This is like a whole mass of twigs and things going on. So pop those in first. Just make that another one up there. Right, now clean the brush, squeeze the water out of it, scuff it up on the tea towel. And let's start with a bit of raw sienna, lemon yellow. Flash some of that on there. Then a bit of ultramarine, some darker bits in there, so get a nice bit of variation. That's our little foreground tree. Now there's a bush right in front of that, just pushing that up into that fence post. A few little twigs and things with the thumbnail, with the fingernail. This path thing here. I've got a few things going on up here as well. Just filling in that gap. Really, I think I should have just pushed this up a little bit, so because there's a big massive empty gap in that field there. So I'm going to fill that. With a few twigs and branches and bushes and things. I'm going to push that right over to that edge. Now I'm going to use what I've just done as a guideline. That fence post, they're just too soft. I need that darker. Also, I'm going to do it the same. I want it the same colour as well. Looks a bit of a mess. So if I can use that as a guide, put the fence, the cross pieces in, something like that. Let's clean the brush. Again, and take a little bit of lemon yellow, a bit of red this time, just vary it slightly. Bit of ultramarine, the darker areas. Just being careful not to paint over the buildings in the distance, and then into the foreground it's getting a lot darker. Bit of raw shell. Let's just level this out a little bit better. Give that a quick dry in the foreground. What we need are some shadows, some strong foreground shadows, just to try and bring it to life a bit. So I've got a bit of brown, bit of red, bit of blue. Right then, now we got, how should I do that? How should I cast the shadows? Got some coming from the tree there. And now I have to redo all these. Some coming from these fence posts. Some from there as well. And what I then need is, do you know what, I'm going to have someone stood at this gate, I think, looking at the view. So I've just gone light red. Light red, and that's going right up to his head, and then down there got someone, there's his one leg. Like a little cap thing or something. Obviously a few shadows coming from him as well. Even the tones up a little bit. I'm going to stick a dog in there as well, I think. And this time our little man and dog are a lot closer to us this time. Again, little shadow thing. They're just waiting to get through these gates. I'm having to do them darker just to try and even up the tones, because the tones don't quite look right. That's one of them style things what you got to climb over or get, not climb over them, I can't remember what you call them. These trunk things, the trunks and branches and things, they need to be a lot stronger than that. They're too weak. So again, I'm switching to the, staying with the rigger brush. I'm just putting these in a lot stronger. A lot more presence to them. Another cross piece in there. So it just looks a lot. Let's just strengthen those things a little bit more. Squeeze the water out again. I'm just going to try and get a bit more paint on those trees on the left hand side, these bushes. Let's just go into some lemon yellow. Stick down there as well. Stick some down there. Darker bits as well amongst them. Let's just even that up a little bit. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I think give that a quick dry. In fact, let's just make sure it's flat first. Give it flat against the easel. Quick dry. I'm just going to sign out in the corner, I think. Call that one finished. Oh, can hardly see that. That looks a mess, that does, doesn't it? I haven't even signed it properly. Okay, let's try that again. I'm going to do it in red. Do it in red so it stands out better. Right then, that'll do. Let's stick that in a mount and see what it looks like. So there's the finished paint in the mounts. So if you have a closer look at it. Now this is a lot different to what I normally do. I don't normally do them as close up as this. Normally this type of scene I'd be looking at it from a much further distance and the figures would be probably about that big rather than these big close-ups there. We've got our man here in his red coat, sort of silhouetted with these little dog there, shadows cast along with shadows from all the other foreground objects. But I did start off very simple sky, just raw sienna and ultramarine, and then use the same colours just to do the outlines on those distant buildings. And always make sure you're doing the same colours as the sky, because it pushes them right back. Then do them light in tone. I might have done those, just preferred slightly lighter than those, but that ain't too bad. And then the middle ground's virtually non-existent. It's completely bare. I don't know if I meant to make it quite that bare, and then everything else is in the foreground there. So starting on the right hand side, I had to sort of define these branches as they were just too weak. So they went in afterwards, after I sort of dry brushed all this sort of raw sienna, lemon yellow. I think there's a bit of Payne's grey ultramarine in there, that's all the foliage. Same as the ones on the other side, and again, I had to strengthen. You can see everything was the same colour as that, so I just had to strengthen to get these main trunks in, and again darken some of the foliage as well up there, just try and match some of the sort of shadowy areas that are going on right in the foreground there. There were 3 or 4 applications of paint on this fence. In the end it's meant to be like one of them, I don't know what you call them, like you sort of pull the fence to you and walk around it. Again, casting all the shadows right through, but always make sure, it doesn't matter even if it's only a tiny little bit. I mean, even if it was just like that, always leave just a little bit of light, and it just makes everything else look like shadows, and just looks as if there's a bit of light just catching. Like I say, it only needs to be a little bit, but as long as there's some there, it gives the impression of light sort of flooding through into the foreground. So that's today's paint. So I hope you enjoyed that. Something a little bit different. Have a go, let me know how you get on. Very best of luck. You'll see all the colours and the materials down in the description if you want to know about all that lot. So keep practicing. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask as always, and I'll see you again soon.